Buddy. It is Unfound Live. I'm a little early here, a couple minutes. Unfound Live for August 5th, 2020. And I'm glad to be here. Really excited about the show tonight. Got a lot to talk about. A lot to talk about tonight. A long agenda. I always try to come to this show with a lot to talk about, and that is certainly happening tonight. And if you're watching this live show for the first time, maybe catching it in the replay on YouTube, what I do here is, of course, interact quite a bit with the viewers during the show. Something, of course, I can't do with the podcast because it's pre-recorded. And I bring an agenda to this show. A lot of stuff having to do with Unfound, and then some things that have nothing to do with Unfound. It's in the true crime category, but maybe some items that I've seen out there in the news and elsewhere that I think might be interesting to everybody. And then I do kind of try to keep track of what people are talking about out there. So that's what the agenda is every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. In addition, before the show, during the day on these Wednesdays, I get questions from people, questions that they would like to have answered during the this live show. A lot of them are true crime questions or unfound questions, and then some are just general in nature. Maybe about music, about food, about movies. It just depends. But that is what we do on the live show here on Wednesday nights. And we've been doing this since October of 2017, quickly coming up on the third anniversary of this show. In fact, the show started on Tuesdays and then got moved to Wednesdays. Hello, Heather. I see that wave, Heather. Hello, Angel. Angel says she stayed up a little later to catch a live show. Thank you, Angel. Concha, Susan. Hello, Joyce. What's up? Emily. How are you? Amanda, Laura, Cherie, Kathy, Scorpio, Jasmine, little bit. Anyone else having issues? Anybody having issues out there? Ann says she's having issues. Maybe we've got a bad connection here or something. It looks to be fine here. I'm not sure why that is, but I'm just going to keep going because I can't. Let me try something over here. Let me pull this up on my other computer. At least put it on mute to so hold on a second. We haven't had any audio problems or video problems on this program for a while. So could be an internet connection, could be a variety of things. Okay. Looks all right over here. I'm looking at myself, although it's a few seconds delayed. No issues here. Back now. Hi there. Okay. I don't know. I'll keep monitoring it over here on my other screen from my laptop where my notes are for tonight's broadcast. Of course, this past Saturday was my birthday. Some of the listeners sent me some things. I guess my address is easy to find. I'm not really trying to hide from anybody. But I want to thank the listeners, those people who sent me things, little packages of food and hats and containers like, what was it called? I'm having a blank here. But sent me candy bars and Cheez-Its and all sorts of good stuff. And I cannot thank them enough. I got some very nice cards with some very nice comments inside them. It was a big deal. 5-0. What did I do? Not much. I spent my birthday alone, as I'm alone most of the time. And I had to finish the newsletter that came out on Saturday. Of course, it comes out the first of the month, every month. And so I had to finish that on Saturday. And then later in the day, about 6 o'clock, I went over to the Coachman Park. There is a disc golf course over there, and there's going to be a tournaments over there starting not this weekend, but next weekend, actually 2 weekends. And I'm playing over there. So I am playing over there those weekends. So I went over there to practice. So I was over there on Saturday. And then I was also over there yesterday evening and ran into one of my good buddies, Trevor, while I was over there. So we got to play together a little bit. So that's what I did on my birthday. Nothing crazy. Even without COVID, I don't think that it would have been too crazy or anything. Maybe I would have gotten together with my brother and his wife or something. Maybe something would have come together. But given the situation, I just kept it very, very low key at home. And I got to tell you, it's fantastic to be 50. I really don't care about it. I really, really don't. But it's happy to get here. I mean, as we know, a lot of people don't make it to 50. So I'm happy to get here for sure. Hello, Oakley. Hello, Jolene. Recent guest of Unfound. Jolene, great to see you tonight. Thank you for watching. Michelle, Kathy, Oakley. There you go. Okay, Oakley. Christine. Thank you, Oakley. Really appreciate it. Long live Iron Maiden. Yes, Oakley, I don't know. You haven't been here for a while, but do you know that I have an Iron Maiden bedspread now? I do. It's pretty nice. If any of you have ever seen those, I know they're advertised on Facebook, and that's how I found out about them. But if you've ever seen those, maybe advertising your favorite band or picture or something, I can tell you those blankets are very high quality. I got one, very high quality. I love it. It's fantastic. So I would recommend that company. I forget what the company name is right now, but of course, with Iron Maiden, they have very intricate art, and mine has all of the album covers on it, and it's the quality is spectacular. They should be paying me for an advertisement. But so Oakley, I have one of those now, and it's fantastic. And of course, when you're a single guy like that, Liz, you could do that. Okay. Angela says she's having a storm there. Sorry to hear that, Angela. Hello, Scorpio. Thank you. Michelle, I get better every year. Shh. Thank you, Michelle. And Sharon says it's great to being in the 50s. I agree. I got no complaints. No complaints. I was talking to my brother Michael last night, who is 69 years old. Yes, I do have a brother that's 18 and a few, quite a bit older than I do. I have a sister that's even older than that, but not that she'd like me to say that. But I was just telling him it's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. But just overall, I just want to thank all of you, the listeners, who have wished me a happy birthday and sent me things and cards and private messages and posting funny pictures of me turning 50 and all of that. I cannot thank you enough. I just, as I've told many people recently, feel like the luckiest guy in the world. I really do. And if you also follow me on Facebook, you know that I finished off my top 7 moments, or not top 7 moments. I would say most influential moments of my life to this point, to the age of 50. And I listed those with long written explanations of why. And I will just tell all of you what they are right now if you're not on Facebook. But if you're interested to know, I did them in chronological order. I did. So I started with me being adopted when I was a month old. The next one was when I was 14. I pitched in a comeback win in a senior league, which is 13, 14, and 15-year-old baseball league in Pennsylvania. I was a winning pitcher on a team that we came back from 8-0 and won 9-8. It was very influential in my sports career. The next one was me meeting my biological family in April of 1994 when I was 23. The next one was working for 7-Eleven in those 10 months, which are still probably the worst 10 months of my life, given what went on there. And I told a few stories regarding what I saw there, and I could write a book on that for sure. Next was me working at Star Trek: The Experience from 2000 to 2004, which was, just the complete opposite of 7-Eleven. And I like to say that the person you see now here in 2020, a lot of that came from those 4.5 years of working there. I will tell you for sure. Then the next one was, what was it? We got that one, starting Unfound in 2016. And then the final one was the death of my mother in November 2018. And like I said, for each of those entries I posted each day, I had a long description of why and, backstory and all of that. So those were the 7 most influential moments of my life to this point after 50 years. Heather says, can I check my chat? I can check my chat. Well, let me do that, Heather. You're telling me to do so. I don't know what to tell you, Heather. Some people seem to be having a problem and some don't. I'm watching the feed on my computer and it's fine. So I don't know what to do about that, Heather. I mean, it's, my feed, the feed is a few seconds behind, but it's certainly clear and the volume is coming through. So yeah, I don't know what to tell you. As long as people can hear me fine, my video is fine. So I don't know what to tell you. It's kind of out of my hands there, Heather. Robin, what's going on from Nova Scotia? One of my parents' favorite places. It's beautiful up there. All right, so let's get into this. First, the poll for little Joe Baines' disappearance. Of course, this was this past Friday's episode. And I see that his sister Jolene is in here this evening. A large majority of you, if you don't know, every Saturday morning I post a poll in the discussion group just to get a feel for what everybody thinks happened for the disappearance for that week. And I gave 3 choices. I gave, do you believe the story that Angelia Coley and his mother were telling in 2001? Do you believe the story that they are telling now in 2020, or do you not believe them at all? And a large majority of you said you don't believe them at all. And I cannot say that I'm surprised by that answer. I think that it makes a lot of sense. I think that choice makes a lot of sense. And I would not criticize anybody for saying that. In fact, I have to admit that I am very much in that camp. Now, you should know, though, in the think tank that we did on Sunday evening, there were some people, not a lot of people, but we did have quite a big showing on Sunday night for the think tank, like 15 people. But there were some people that are leaning toward the idea that he really did walk off. And it could be involving his ex-girlfriend at the time, or maybe little Joe was just going through some things, and he really did walk off, and everything happened like they said back in 2001. And then why don't things match up now? Well, it's 19 years ago. And we had a pretty good discussion about memory, how our recollection of things can change, given then what we know happened after. Sometimes that can really affect our memory. It's kind of revisionist history, I guess you might call it. And I talked about how we are very critical of people who can't remember details like that, but we ourselves, we're making mistakes with our memory all the time, but we're not as critical of ourselves as we are against some of these witnesses in these disappearances. But in the blog that I wrote for Patreon, I did come to the conclusion that their stories don't make a lot of sense. Neither the one in 2001 or now. And so if you'd be interested in reading that, you can go to patreon.com/unfound podcast and you can see what I wrote there. You can also become part of the think tank, once again, by going to Unfound Podcast, patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. So that's what I do. I write blogs there every week. They're at least 3,000 words long. And this week, I think I got up to 4,000 words, something like that. But also, you sign up at patreon.com, depending on the level, up to $20 a month. You get a variety of different items for whatever level you sign up for. To be in the think tank, to be part of the Unfound on the Grounds, that the next one's coming up, you have to sign up for at least $12 a month. But if you just want to read the blogs and get a free ebook, then you can just sign up at $2 a month, and that's fine too. Jolene, the guest from Friday, says, and I believed from all these years, but they still have not contacted me. Mm-hmm. Sheree, okay, the first link works fine, but the second link is having the issue. Hello, Rosalie. Not sure what to tell you people in Texas. Could be something going on there, because once again, let me check the video. And there I am. I don't know. I'm not sure what to tell you. Some things could be going on. Just don't know. Keeps going in and out. Sorry to hear that. Totally out of my hands, unfortunately. So, who else is in here? Robin. There's Robin. Hello, Valerie. Becky, working there. And Jolene says she's in Texas. No problems. Okay. I don't know what to tell you. So that was the poll. The discussion group very decided on their opinions of Angelia, Coley, and his mother. The think tank, a little more up in the air. I'll just leave it at that. Let's take a question, and then I'm going to get into some very important items that are going to get discussed tonight. Angela, who I think is the Angela, she is in here. I think she may be having some connection problems. She asked me, is it proving true that those that go missing and leave their wallets behind are more likely to have disappeared due to foul play when their remains are found? Statistically speaking, probably too few to determine. What do you think? It's, once again, when you bring up a wallet, of course, then I think of men. If you bring a purse or something else, of course, then I think of women. I don't think it's ever a good sign when a guy goes missing, his wallet is left behind. It's never good. That is not a good sign. Whether he walked off on his own or whatever theory that you come up with, leaving a wallet behind is not a good sign. It's just not. Why? Because we all know that men, when they go places, take their wallets. I was even, writing about it in the blog for Little Joe's disappearance that, okay, maybe if I go, 7 floors down to get my mail or 6 floors down to get my mail, okay, I don't take my wallet. If I go out to my car, down to my car to get something and come back up, I don't take my wallet. I take my phone. I take my phone everywhere. I take it out on the disc golf course everywhere. If I go out to the beach, take my phone. That's, I go down to the workout room, wherever. My phone goes with me everywhere because that's the business I'm in. But the wallet, If I'm leaving the building and getting in my car and going somewhere, then absolutely I'm taking my wallet. That is what most men do, no matter, I think, their vocation or anything else. So when a wallet is left behind, it's the gears in your mind start spinning. Now, why could it be left behind? It just depends on the circumstances. If we're going to talk about, if we're going to talk about uh, little Joe's disappearance, then, why would he say that he's not going, you can lock up, I'm not going to be coming back tonight, if he leaves his wallet and his phone behind? Most guys don't do that when they're leaving the house. Now, maybe he left his phone behind because it was out of minutes or out, the battery's dead or something like that. We have to remember, this is 2001 technology, not 2020 technology. So maybe the phone was dead. Maybe he ran out of minutes and he said, well, I can't use the phone anyway. That's, no use taking it. And maybe that's the reason. Maybe somebody called on the house phone instead of his cell phone. Possible. But the wallet, it's tough to rationalize. So, Angela, I'm sorry you're having some connection problems there. But if it certainly is, you see something like that and it screams of foul play. It just does. Not a guarantee, but you can certainly start looking in that direction. Let's put it this way. If we were to switch this around and know that little Joe left and he did take his phone and he did take his wallet and the phone pinged, somewhere around the area of where his ex-girlfriend lived, his disappearance is totally different. Totally different. Then that lends a lot of credence to what those adults said happened that night. But that's not what happened. So to answer your question, is it proving true that those that go missing and leave their wallets behind are more likely to have disappeared due to foul play? I think so. I think so. Now, if there was foul play, why didn't they get rid of the wallet and phone? Well, not everybody, is a supervillain. Not everybody can think that far ahead. I mean, we know of criminals out there who will mug people, steal their wallets, and then go use their credit card, right down the street and then get caught that way. If they hadn't done that, they wouldn't have caught at all. People make a lot of mistakes when crimes are committed. So I think it is proving true, Angela. I just don't know. It's a solid theory. It's certainly something that helps us. But on the other hand, it may be just like, lie detectors or dogs or anything else. It's just a tool. It's not a law. It's not, it's not black and white, very yes or no yet. Maybe it will be one day, but not right now. Hello, Suzanne. Michelle says, that's how I took it too, Ed, is foul play. Angela said, well, we're going to get into that and we're going to talk about Chris Turner in here in a little bit for sure, Angela. Hello, Laura. Good to see you tonight. The first big thing I want to talk about tonight is Tom Brown. I know that I did not forecast this, but I know how popular his disappearance is on the Unfound circles. But I really didn't mention that I was going to talk about this. I guess people who are interested in his disappearance will find out about this afterwards, or maybe some of you are in here, but I think a lot of people will, once they find out that I talked about it, probably the downloads or views for this video is probably going to be a lot higher than other recent ones. But there's something that only my assistants have known for about 8 months now. And that's on purpose. And in fact, to be honest, I didn't even tell Penny about this until yesterday. But I actually talked to Pine Gregory for about an hour and a half last November. This is something that really Cherie and I had talked about. We had discussed. She was the one who reached out to him. She had a couple of conversations with him before I got to speak to him. I spoke to him, like I said, for about 90 minutes, going way back. I don't remember the exact day. I could check in my records, but it was sometime. I went back and checked it in November, sometime around that time where Nathan Lewis was resigning, got fired, and Clapp was getting promoted to the sheriff's position, and all of this stuff was coming out about the meeting that happened in August. All of that was coming out. Right in there somewhere is when I talked to Pine. Now, I want you to know I've not talked to him since, but I will tell you that Cherie has. And we had a wide-ranging conversation, and I'm not going to go into all the details. There's only a couple details that I want to talk about tonight that are relevant to tonight's discussion. During my conversation with him, I just, you know me, I'm just going to ask the questions, just like I did with Steve Pankey. Just going to ask the questions and see, what the person has to say. I asked him specifically about the night of Tom's disappearance and those two sheriff's cars, deputies' vehicles that were coming from Frank's right around the time that Tom would have been done pumping gas. Remember, that is something that I saw on the video. And those videos are still on this channel right here on YouTube. I asked him if he was in one of the vehicles. Does he know? Does he remember that night? And what he told me is he admitted being in one of those vehicles. And he told me that the person that was in the other vehicle was Deputy D. Herrera, who I will be talking about a little before we're done here. And I asked him, well, why were you two coming from the direction of Frank's right around the time you would have been going by there right around the time that Tom was pumping gas? Why didn't you stop? And he goes, no, that's not what happened. Thank you, Pamela. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you. What he said happened was that although he admits being in the vehicle and he says Deputy D. Herrera was in the other vehicle, the fact is they did not go by Frank's. And what he told me is that night they had stopped a vehicle for a DUI at the intersection, I believe it's called, of Nelson and 2nd Street. And that is on the way to Frank's, but it is not the whole way to Frank's. In fact, Nelson, if you were to look at the map of Canadian Texas, it would be on 2nd Street is that main road that goes right through, kind of going north and south, kind of. And Nelson is one of the side streets that comes out to meet 2nd Street. They had stopped somebody for a DUI right there. It was the way I remember it. I'm not saying that Pine said this, but this is the way I remember it. Deputy D. Herrera pulled the person over, and then he called in for assistance. Deputy Gregory to go there and meet him there so they could test the field sobriety test, walking in a line and touching your nose and all those things. That's what he told me during that discussion. And he says that when you on the video, when you see their two vehicles come into view, one of them turns and goes like down Main Street or whatever it's called, and one continues to go out of town. What Pine Gregory told me is that D. Herrera took the person who was allegedly drinking and driving into his vehicle to take him to a medical center to get blood tested, whereas Pine left the scene by himself and just went about his business. So when he told me that, I immediately thought, well, that is something, and I'm not here to call Pine Gregory a liar or anything. All we're doing is looking for the truth. But if he's going to say something, then one of my assistants check it. Somebody's going to check it. And so Cherie and I started the process of her filing FOIAs with Hemphill County to get the records from that night about what the calls were and everything else. Well, the first FOIAs that we filed were not good enough. I'll just put it at that, like that. And they got rejected. Well, in our second, we decided to be a little more general with it. And what once again, I did not do the paperwork. I give all the credit to Cherie. She's the one that filled out the paperwork and sent it in and had to wait for it. Everything else. She had to deal with it the first time around when, it got rejected. So she had to refile. We went a little more general with it. And we were just, instead of maybe letting people there know what we were actually looking for, we just asked for all DUI stops in Hemphill County in November and December of 2016. And what we found was that Pine Gregory was absolutely 100% telling the truth. That on that night, the night that Tom disappeared, Deputy De Herrera and Deputy Gregory had pulled somebody over. There's the paperwork that we have. I think Cherie doesn't have the driver's name on it. I'm guessing for privacy reasons or something. But they did pull over somebody, a DUI, at 10:55 p.m. at the intersection of 2nd and Nelson. So they were there that time, and in our opinion, would be not unusual doing a DUI check and then maybe waiting for a tow truck to show up to get the vehicle, etc. It would not be unusual for a deputy or 2 police officers or whoever to be on scene of something like that for 40 minutes, starting at 10:55 p.m. and carrying over to roughly 11:40 p.m., almost toward midnight. So, what we thought was suspicious, or I thought was suspicious, I'll just put myself, in looking into the facts of it, that's what it shows. That at the time that Tom was at Frank's getting gas, whether you believe something happened there or somewhere else, that Deputy Gregory and Deputy De Herrera were on a DUI stop very close to Frank's, but down the street. Now, here's what I will tell you, and as you know, I've been to Canadian last year, over a year ago, but looking at the map yesterday or the day before, what it would have been, the path that Tom would have taken from the junior high school to Frank's, most likely, if you were to look at the map, he would be at the junior high school. He would take Washita, Washita, over to 2nd Street and make a left. Well, when he would be coming to Washita, he would be coming to 2nd Street. While on Washita, when he got to that intersection, if he would have looked to his right, he would have seen the deputies having with this guy pulled over, or a woman pulled over. I don't know who the driver was. He would have seen the deputies, 2 vehicles there, but he would be turning left. He would not be going toward them. He would be going away from them. So it's very possible that Tom saw those deputies that night, their vehicles parked on the side of the road, giving this person a field sobriety test, but he did not pass them. Instead, he turned left to go to Frank's. All right. So, there's that. What Pine Gregory said, and like I said, we had a wide-ranging conversation, a lot of things that I'm not going to cover tonight because, I did not have his permission to talk about some of these things, but surely I have permission to talk about something that we can now verify with records to show that he's telling the truth. And if you're wondering, did we talk about if you're wondering all those things, well, Ed, did you talk to him about how he came across Tom's remains? I did, but I'm not getting into that tonight. But the other thing I did talk to him about that I think I can say is that I asked him specifically about the day of the search, that day when the phone was found. And of course, there's still a lot of controversy regarding how the phone was found and where it was found and whose phone was it and everything else. That Phil Klein continues to say to this day that on the day of the search, that I don't think he says wasn't him, Phil Klein personally, but one of his people or somebody who was helping in the search. Somebody was kind of with Phil Klein organizing everything. That this person claims that he or she had a run-in with Pine Gregory where this person wanted to go into a certain area out by Lake Marvin, and Pine Gregory was there in his deputy vehicle, in uniform, whatever, and would not let this person go search this particular area. And this person insists that that is the area where Tom's remains were eventually found. I asked Pine Gregory about this. He completely 100% denies it. He goes, I was not there that day. I was not on duty. I was not there that day at all. Now, what we haven't been able to get, at least not Sherry, I don't think we've talked about it, and I don't know if they'd give them up or anything anyway. But we do not have in our possession the duty schedule, the duty roster, the work schedule of the day or the days before, the days after that search. Okay, so I have no paperwork to verify whether Pine is telling the truth or not. I do have paperwork to verify that he was certainly telling the truth about the DUI stop. Okay, but I do not have any verification that he's telling the truth about whether he was on duty that day or was out there that day. But I will tell you, for the record, he completely denies being involved, being out there, being anywhere near Lake Marvin on that day. So I don't know how to rationalize that. I guess what I'm saying is somebody is lying. Either that or the person who was out there thought it was Pine Gregory and it was actually some other deputy. Because, they're saying, I'm not saying Phil Klein says he was, I don't know. I just know what he has said about one of his people or somebody that encountered Pine Gregory that day. They claim Pine was there. Pine claims he wasn't there. Somebody's lying. I don't know who. I'm not here to point fingers and everything. I have no paperwork or anything else to verify it one way or the other. I don't know. But being that has been a big part of what has been going on, it makes, everybody, go to conspiracy land and everything. I'm here to tell you, having talked to Pine Gregory one-on-one last November, that he completely denies ever being out there that day. Did not stop anybody, did not encounter anybody because he wasn't there. Do we have any proof of that yet? Nope. I'd like to get it because that's what we do here. We're trying to verify things, and I can tell you just from us getting this information, Sheree and I have talked about, some of the next steps that we want to take in all of this. So all this time, when I told you that we were working on something behind the scenes regarding Tom Brown's disappearance, this is at least partly what I meant. It's not total. We're still doing some other things, but this is partly what I meant. That we were trying to verify some things that Pine told me last November. Now, like I said, not even Penny knew that I talked to Pine. The only people who knew were myself and my assistants. That would be, of course, Emily, Cherie, Carrie, Heather, Eric, and Natasha. They're the only ones who knew that happened. In fact, that was even before Natasha came on board. But so we discussed that at the time, and they are privy to a lot of what I talked about, but I'm not going to get into all of it tonight. So because Penny didn't know, I called her yesterday, and I'm not going to tell you most of the things we talked about, but I told her. I finally had to tell her, Penny, I just want you to know that I spoke to Pine Gregory last year and told her what we talked about. And I told her how we verified that he and Dia Herrera were on a DUI stop at the time Tom was right up the street at Frank's. Now, could that paper, somebody's maybe even go further into conspiracy land. Well, maybe the paperwork's fake. Yeah. I'm going to say that the paperwork is correct. Now, I know Nathan Lewis backdating information regarding Tom's disappearance and faking faking training, schedules and experience and all of that. But I do not believe that it was faked. When Pine, I remember him telling me that right away. When I asked him, he had a very clear memory of it. And then that was verified by the paperwork that we got, that I'm not sure they could have ever predicted that somebody would look into that. So I had told Penny, owned up to having talked to Pine Gregory. I didn't want to tell her because I did not want to put her all this time in a very difficult position, because she has other people that are helping her. And I don't feel like, it's right for her to keep secrets from them, because they're helping her too. So I withheld talking about what I talked to him about and everything until I couldn't withhold it anymore, and that I actually had some real information for her. Now, because of talking to her, though, and in talking to Cherie, we're going to start working on another angle and looking into that night. But of course, I'm not going to tell you what that is right now. So this is what I wanted to reveal to you tonight. This is, I guess, a secret that I've been withholding from the public for, like I said, 8 months. And now I can reveal that I did talk to Pine Gregory. He and I got along very well. Like I said, we've not talked since, but Cherie has had some communication with him since then. We got along, I think, my opinion, perfectly fine. There were no arguments. He knew that I was going to ask some tough questions and all of that, and he answered them. Now, once again, whether was he telling the truth, I don't know. We've only had an opportunity to check into some of what he said, but so far, he told the truth in what I think is a very big part of that night. So you can judge that for yourself. Hello, Ms. Cat. Good to see you. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Pamela, for your generosity for the super chat. Suzanne says, I love how open and honest and to the point on things you want to know. Thank you, Suzanne. Little Bit says she's going to have to re-listen to the podcast. Thank you, Michelle. Suzanne says, sounds like it could have been another deputy that used Pine's name. No, I just, once again, I really don't know, but my interpretation of it is somebody's lying. Hello, Karen. Good to see you. What is Nathan Lewis doing now? I have no idea. Maybe somebody local knows. I do not know. So that is the Tom Brown news. And anything new that we can find within the next weeks or months, I will talk about it then. But Cherie and I are very secure in a direction we're now going to go because of talking to Penny. I think this is the most next logical step in what we're doing behind the scenes on our own, separate from everything else. To this day, I've not, and I don't think any of my assistants, I'm sure they tell me, we have no connection with anybody else who is working on this disappearance. We don't have any connections with anybody in the Attorney General's office or Texas Rangers or Phil Klein or anybody else who has either gone into the shallow end or gone into the deep end of this disappearance. We're pretty much just keeping to ourselves and working alone on this. So there you go. Next thing I have to talk about, and this was big news as of yesterday, the remains of Chris Turner were found in Las Vegas. And I think that I got to talk to his mother, Dawn, this morning. I'll give you a little bit of the story, but once again, I don't think it be appropriate to go into everything that we talked about. I think we talked for about 20 minutes, something like that. But here's how this happened. She did tell me this, and I think that maybe she's even put it out there already. Actually, Chris's remains have been in the authorities of Las Vegas's custody since April of 2017, which means she actually came on Unfound after his remains had already been discovered. But it took all this time for the DNA tests to get back, or maybe just a light bulb suddenly went off in somebody's head. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. I don't think she even knows that yet, but we didn't talk about that. But for some reason, it took over 3 years for his remains to be identified through DNA. And in fact, what she has found out is that when they were collected and a sample was taken, and they were actually buried back then with no name. The remains were found near Sunrise Mountain. This is a location that I know very, very well. Anybody who's ever lived in Las Vegas for any amount of time knows Sunrise Mountain. It's the most prominent mountain in the East Valley. That's why it's called Sunrise Mountain. That is where the sun rises, right over that area in the morning. I had one of my best friends actually lived with him when I moved to Las Vegas, Brad Carastori. His wife, he and his wife lived on Charleston Boulevard, right off Charleston Boulevard, very close to Sunrise Mountain. So, like I said, anybody who's lived there for any amount of time knows that area. It's a popular hiking area. I can remember working on way back in 2000. I worked as a production assistant on the movie Pay It Forward with Helen Hunt and Kevin Spacey and Haley Joel Osment. Remember that movie? It wasn't a very good movie, but I worked as a production assistant on that movie. And we worked the location where they shot that final scene of the movie is right there near Sunrise Mountain. And so once again, everybody's familiar with it. And you can walk up there. There's no fences or anything else stopping people from walking up there. And in fact, if you take the one road, you can go behind the mountain and take what I would call the long way to the Lake Mead recreational area. And Lake Mead, of course, the lake. So very familiar area. His remains were found near Sunrise Mountain. And from what I understand, they were scattered. But she told me that most of his remains, unlike Tom Brown's, which less than 50% were found, in this case, she told me that most of his remains were found. Now, what I also found out from her, and this is maybe how things have changed between then and now, is that back then we didn't even talk about the name. Maybe we weren't very pronounced in stating the name of the apartment complex, the street, and all those things. But Dawn got me that information. She even made a map for me. And the distance from where Chris and his girlfriend, Nicole, were living to where the remains were found is about 8.5 miles. They were living on Pecos Road, which is on the east side of Las Vegas Boulevard. And his remains were found once again near the mountain. And it's 8.5 miles. To walk that would take almost 3 hours. So it does seem that we're in a kind of a same situation like we are with Tom Brown. He was, of course, found 12 miles away from his Durango. Did he walk that, or did something else happen? So with Chris, did he walk that and succumb to the exposure? Of course, it's August in Las Vegas. 110. I don't even have to look at historical weather to know it's probably around 110 degrees. And you should know it's exactly, exactly 4 years to the day, August 5th, if you can believe it, coincidentally, that he disappeared. So his remains were found not even a year after he disappeared. How were they found? She was told by a search and rescue team that was out there. I'm guessing she's going to find out more information regarding that. I don't know if I'm supposed to take that they got a tip and they were out there looking for his remains and found them, or they were out there just practicing or something and came across the remains by accident. I don't know. Not at the time that I'm doing this live show on August 5th, 2020. But the DNA was done, and it was determined that those are his remains. Now, how long were they out there? When did they get out there? I don't think we're ever going to know that. But, when you start to hear about remains that are scattered around, you start to think, is this going to be another situation where cause of death is undetermined? I'm hoping it doesn't go that way, but it'll just depend on, if they can figure anything out. Now what, as Cherie brought up, and I don't know why that's happening. It's not you, Latanya. I don't know. Some people are having problems. A lot of people aren't. I don't know what to tell you, Latanya. I apologize. Let me see how it's looking. Just take a break here for a second. No, still looks good here. Now, what's interesting about this, and of course, Cherie brought this up to me, and Dawn this morning brought this up to me. Now, what is interesting about this is that if his remains were discovered in April of 2017, alive. So, just don't know what to think regarding that. I just, obviously, something's going on there. I just don't know. And I can now see that this is kind of, the video is going out once in a while. I just don't know, what's going on. Totally out of my hands at this point. But that is the news on Chris Turner. That's been a disappearance that has been up and down and all around since day one. Las Vegas Metro, of course, closed the investigation into his disappearance just because his girlfriend and her mother said that they saw him alive. And then Dawn had to work for quite a long time, I think into 2018, maybe even 2019, to get it reopened again. And now here we are in August of 2020, 4 years to the day. And now we know that his remains were out there for quite a while or something, and that they were eventually discovered way back in 2017, and she just didn't know it because they had not been identified. So, now the investigation can start. Now that we know that he is deceased, it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be very difficult. Of course, I think a lot of people suspect foul play. I think that that's a rational thing to believe. That doesn't mean it's true. As I've been thinking about, having lived there for 13 and a half years, is that, Chris was fairly new to Las Vegas. And if you're fairly new to Las Vegas, then Sunrise Mountain isn't like a thing. It's just, there are mountains. I mean, Las Vegas Valley is surrounded by mountains on every side. But it's in what they call a high desert plain. It's like 2,100 feet above sea level. And that's why it gets so cold in the winter and so hot during the summer. But so it's not like he would have known about Sunrise Mountain and wanted to go hike there or anything else, especially considering that it's 8.5 miles away. So this is another one where the remains are found, but it could be quite a while before we get, the answers. Unlike, of course, we're going to be doing an in memoriam for Esther Westenbarger this Friday. That's one where remains are found, and I think we do have all the answers. Zoe Campos, Andrea Bowman, where we do have those answers. Austin Pivo, Tom Brown, possibly Chris Turner. Even with Crystal Morrison, we're pretty sure that she just died of the elements, which could make it possible that maybe Chris Turner did as well. So that's what I know. That's probably as much as I can tell you right at this second. But I'm just not, the big point I think right now is, were his remains discovered by accident, or was that search and recovery team out there on a tip? That, I think that is something that Dawn really, really needs to find out 100% for sure. I mean, once again, this is like Pine Gregory discovering Tom's remains. What are the odds that a deputy who was on duty the night that Tom disappeared would just happen to run across his remains? Well, with this, what are the odds that a search and rescue team, which that's what they do, go out and find remains, are doing like a practice thing out there, and they actually come upon real human remains? What are the odds of that? Sounds pretty improbable to me, but I guess it happened. So there you go. Yes, as Suzanne is saying, please hit the like button. I apologize for some of you who are having problems. I really don't know what to say. It is not an issue on my end. I don't know. It could be hurricane issues, given that we had this thing go through the last couple of days. Could be storm issues. We have nothing going on here in Florida right now, but the internet's weird like that. But yes, if you could hit the thumbs up and like this video as you're watching tonight, I would deeply appreciate it. And Jolene, thank you for being so generous with the super chat. Super chat, if you'd like to contribute to Unfound and you like what you're seeing here, then please reward Unfound by donating a small amount to the cause as you are watching tonight, like Jolene has. Who else? Sharon and Pamela have as well. Thank you all. Thank you so much. Angel says Dawn had to submit her DNA twice. They lost the end. Yeah, I know. Yes, that's true, Angel. Suzanne, it also means his girlfriend lied about him being alive. I've always thought she had something to do with it. I think you and a lot of people believe that, Suzanne. Hello, Miranda. Latoya. Sorry you keep getting blocked. I don't know what's up with that, Latoya. So sorry. Prayers for his mom. Yep. Angel Dawn had to fight to get it open. That's true. Twinkle says, was he actually buried out there? No, not to my understanding, Twinkle. The way Dawn described it to me, that he was not buried. Michelle, you always know all the cases. I've missed your comments. There's Angel. You're welcome, sir. Thank you for everything. You're welcome, Jolene. You're welcome. That's what we do. So those were the two big pieces of news, Tom Brown, Chris Turner. So I'm going to take another question right at this point. Like I said, you never know what you're going to run into when you tune into the live show. Carol, not sure if this has been asked before, but is there a disappearance you believe that will never get solved? As I already explained to Carol publicly in the group, I would never answer that question. Ever, never, ever. I never want to, put a stamp on something like that. Because, I want to be hopeful, not hopeless. And I think what we know after, if you've been listening to Unfound since its beginning, or you've listened to all the episodes, and now we know that some of them have been solved. You never know which ones are going to get, where remains are going to be found and ones aren't. You never know when a suspect is going to be taken into custody and others aren't. You just don't know. I mean, who really would have thought that Chris Turner's remains would be found, and then you find out that they've actually found them back in 2017. Who would have predicted that? No. Who would have predicted that Esther Westenbarger's car would be found in a retention pond? She and her car would be found in a retention pond after the case being totally cold for 11 years. Andrea Bowman, case unsolved for 30 years. A lot of people, including her biological mother, Kathy, had a good idea what happened. Completely cold for 30 years. And then all of a sudden, Dennis Bowman's in jail, and they're digging up his yard and finding Andrea's remains. You just don't know. Now, in my opinion, are some more likely to be solved than others? I think so. I would never say what ones those are. I think maybe you could go and maybe pick some of those out for yourselves. And it would depend on your interpretation. The ones I would pick might not be the ones that you pick. But I think it's easy to say the disappearances that are older are less likely. The ones that are newer are more likely. But even within that, there's a lot of interpretation, and there's a wide range of possibilities and probabilities. So, all I can tell you, Carol, is that there's certainly some cases that I think are more likely to be solved than others. And that's about as far, but I don't think I'm really saying anything that people don't already know there, but that's my answer. Because once again, I just, as I think Jolene, you asked a similar question. I just don't like putting disappearances and naming them and putting them in some sort of hierarchy of strangest, most interesting, most mysterious. They're all mysteries. You know why? Because they're not solved. That's, we don't have to put superlatives on them as if we're like some senior high school class. Best personality, most all around, most athletic, class clown. They're all important. They all deserve to be solved. But given what we think we know about disappearances from the facts that we know, the interpretation is some are more likely to be solved than others. And you just can't tell. Just keep working hard at all of them. That's all you can do. Laura, my question for you, when you get a chance, is what is your biggest pet peeve? Just in general, Laura? Well, I can answer that in a moment. Hold on. Julian, what about how there's so many missing and so many unidentified alive or passed away? Wonder how they are matches and just haven't been discovered. I've talked about that before, Jolene. I know you're just new to the program. But I answered that maybe within the last couple months. Why is it like on NamUs, you have all these missing people, all these unidentified remains? It should be just as easy as matching column A with column B and all these get solved. And it doesn't work that way. There's a variety of reasons why it doesn't, Jolene. First of all, you find out very quickly that a lot of these remains, these unidentified remains, are not marked properly. That they may say that the skeleton looks like the guy is 5'6" when really he's 6'2". They may think that, the remains of this woman, she's 23 and really she's 41. And just things like that can really set you off in a whole bunch of different directions when the information is wrong. In addition, my idea regarding that is that I think a lot of these unidentified remains that are on NamUs, for example, aren't American citizens. And in fact, I know there is a unidentified remains in Las Vegas that's called Sandstone Doe. Right now, if you look it up, I don't believe that guy is an American citizen. I think there are reasons to believe he's not. Well, on NamUs, all the missing people, they're all Americans, all American citizens. So it's hard to match up American citizens when some of these remains over here aren't American citizens. And also the opposite is also true. So there's several reasons, Jolene, several reasons. And you also have to remember the NamUs database is not even close to complete. It's a work in progress. Laura, what is my biggest pet peeve? Wow. People who are just so caught up in their own business, people who cannot take themselves out of the equation. I guess to put it in 21st century terms or even 2020 terms, people who can't take themselves out of an equation. Any topic comes up, they have to relate it to themselves somehow. You'll be having a discussion about something, and then they'll just butt in. Why? And they just want to go on and on and on about, and it has nothing to actually do with the topic, but just because it just touches upon something that they've experienced that they think they get to talk about it, that drives me nuts. In fact, there is a comedy routine by Brian Regan called I Walked on the Moon on YouTube. You can watch it. And the last portion of that comedy routine is about that very topic. And it's absolutely correct. And because of that, it's absolutely hilarious. I just don't have any respect for people who can't be modest and who can't take themselves out of the equation and just can't admit, you know what, the world doesn't revolve around you. That is my pet peeve. I mean, we could talk about, I guess, a lot of bad things, racism, pedophilia, and all these things, but just common things that we run into on our daily basis, just, being around in a community. That's one of the big ones. I just can't take it. I just can't take it. So there you go, Laura. When people slurp when eating or drinking, yeah, or chewing with their mouth open, Laura. There you go. Yeah, I hate that. It's very narcissistic. You're right. But I would recommend Brian Regan's I Walked on the Moon routine to anybody. It's PG if that's important to you. It's on YouTube. Look it up. Absolutely hilarious stand-up routine. It's from maybe like 14 years ago. And the entire thing is on YouTube for free. And the last part of it talks about that phenomenon. And it's beautiful. I just love it. Another missing person I mentioned maybe a month ago, but I want to talk about again now. But Christopher Hyde, his remains, very much like Chris Turner's, even more so. Christopher Hyde's remains were found right over here in Tampa in Hillsborough County back in 2004. And they were identified within the last few months. His sister Lila was on the program at the end of 2016. The only additional information I have on that right now, it's still undetermined how he died, and I don't know where or anything, but he was found inside an abandoned trailer somewhere over in Hillsborough County. So that is some additional information on that. That's all I have on that. And, looking at that now, I don't know if I'm, surprised that maybe Christopher ended up homeless or something, and that's how he died. I think, looking back at that interview, knowing what I think I got to know about him and how his father really wasn't taking care of him, I maybe it's not surprising. It's horrible. It's very, very sad. The big question is, how did he get from Orlando, over here to Hillsborough County? I don't know if we'll ever know that. I don't know. So I just wanted to add that, just one more piece of information. I've tried to get, ask Lila some more questions, and she just doesn't know much right now. You have to remember his remains were found in 2004. So many of the people who maybe even worked on it when the remains were found are probably retired by now. And that, and that sucks too. Let's move on to this. I've told you about, we have a new project that's going to be coming out, and I can only give you the name of it tonight, but it was Cherie's idea, the moderator in here. And the new project, the name of it, and I know this is going to cause you to try to figure out what it's going to be. It's going to be called the Unfound Roundtable. And this is an idea that Cherie came up with a couple months ago. We talked about it. I frankly misunderstood what she was trying to tell me and what her idea was. And then we had a deep discussion about that. And when I finally understood what she was trying to say, my fault, not hers, I said, I love it. And so we're going to do it. And once again, it is called the Unfound Roundtable. It will be free for everybody. This will be something that I'm not going to give that away yet. But this will be something for everybody. You do not need to be a Patreon supporter, unlike Unfound on the Ground, which is what I'm going to talk about next. The next Unfound on the Ground is going to be August 10th 8:15 p.m. So this coming Monday, it will be through Zoom again. This will be for premium Patreon members, $12 a month and up, just like the first three have been. This will be the fourth one, but the third one that occurred at the beginning of July will be coming out for free on YouTube. If it's not already up for free, it will be up for free within the next couple days, so all of you can get to listen to it. But Unfound on the Ground is kind of like a classroom. Dr. Eric Grabowski hosts every session. And this, the prior one, the third one that will be coming out for free soon, was about how to find sources, where to find them for disappearances. This coming Monday for you Patreon members. Cherie feels like she wants to tell some things about it. Okay, well, there you go. Read what Cherie is using the Unfound Podcast Channel title tonight instead of her own, I think, because of connection problems. But all of you can now read that. It's in yellow. But the next Unfound on the Ground for all premium Patreon members this coming Monday is documents. How to get documents, how to read documents. And Eric certainly has some experience in that, given the work that he did on the Donna Mikalenko case in North Dakota, and then some work that he did for Unfound back in 2019. So be looking forward to that on Monday evening, 8:15 p.m. for premium Patreon members. Let's move on to this. Erica Lloyd. That was the second Unfound Now episode that I did a few weeks ago. She's still missing. It doesn't seem like much information has come out since I did that Unfound Now. However, I did read somewhere, I don't know if this is correct. I could only find this in one location. It might not be, but it caught my eye within maybe the last 5 days. It says that a tent and items were found during the search. Now, that everywhere else that I read, that is not included. But in this one particular article that I read from a particular news source, says that her tent and items were found. But once again, it's only printed one place. So I don't know what to make of that. All we know is she is still missing. And there's still no explanation why she would go the whole way from Northern California to Southern California. Travel all that way to go there, and just still a lot of unanswered questions, which is not surprising given that the disappearance is still what we would consider to be very, very new. Now, as far as the next Unfound Now, actually, I was talking to my assistant, Heather, about that. There is one in particular that she would like me to do. We'll see if we can make that happen. And I'm guessing that the next one, whatever it will be, will come out this month at some point. I'm not making any promises on when that's going to be, but I think that the next one will be coming out before August 31st. Let me read some of these. Sounds like in the update show, there are going to be a lot of updates. Yeah, the update show is coming up the last Friday of August. Yes, Suzanne, it's going to be long for sure. And that's great. We love having updates. This is Cherie writing for the Unfound Podcast Channel. We'll be discussing a disappearance in depth for Unfound Roundtable. Hope you all tune in. Participation is welcomed. Well, that's certainly part of it, Cherie. That's not everything, though. Okay. Hello, Jill. Good to see you. When will the Unfound Roundtable be? Well, we have a later this month, Michelle, we're all due, myself and the assistants, to talk this over when everybody has the time. It will not be within the next couple weeks, I can tell you that. Yeah, end of August, as Shri is writing there. Johnny Estes, Becky, Jonathan Estes, no. I did, though, what was it, 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, Becky? His wife's trial was supposed to happen. It's been pushed off since COVID. You know, that Bobcat piece of machinery that was sold and it was actually stolen. That trial, she's still pleading innocent on that. It got pushed back. That's the only new news that I have, Becky. So there you go. Something I didn't write on my itinerary for tonight is something that I'm going to start doing. That because there seems to be a very positive reception for these videos that I do for some, not all, but some of the disappearances that we covered on the program. Most recently, of course, with Joe Bain, I did a video showing you both the satellite view, street view of the house and that road and all of that. If you watched it, it was about 13 minutes long. Those seem to be very well received. And anything that I can do to make a disappearance more understandable to you, the audience, I'm going to do that. So what I'm going to start doing, and of course, doing maps and videos like that is a relatively new thing for Unfound. And being that the Unfound Podcast Channel is so good now, thanks to Natasha, I'm going to go back to the beginning and go through all of the old episodes, going back to the first one, Suzanne Lyle. And I'm just going to start doing videos for all of them. Not all of them. Some of them, I want to take that back. Some of them just don't lend themselves to maps and doing routes and those things. But the ones that do, I'm going to go back and start doing them. For example, Jason Jolkowski. I don't think I did a video for that. I'll have to check it. But if there isn't a video, if I didn't do a video for him yet for his episode, I'm going to do that. So I'll go back and do a satellite view, do a street view of where he was supposed to be walking from his house over to that high school and how he disappeared somewhere in there. And any other ones that lend themselves to videos, that's what I'm going to do. Going to go back to the beginning and, once again, I think that'll also raise the profile of some of these disappearances once again. And I think maybe even more so it'll help some of you understand these disappearances better, because I realize in an audio format, you start talking about directions and streets and northwest and left and right and T intersections, like with Esther Westenbarger, etc. It can get a little confusing. So that's what I'll be doing in my spare time if I have it. The videos are somewhat easy to do. It doesn't take a ton of preparation. Most of them are like 10 to 15 minutes long, maybe a little longer. So it doesn't take up a lot of time, but I want to make sure I do it the right way. But if I have the time, I'm going to go back and start doing videos for the ones that lend themselves to maps. Because I know that especially early on, maybe in the first 2 years, there were probably ones that I could have done it and I didn't do it. So this is the opportunity to do that now. The newsletter came out last Saturday, my birthday. Should have gotten it. If you did not get it, contact me at unfoundpodcast@gmail.com and I can make that happen for you. Jolene says, listening to other cases helps me in my search for Little Joe. Thank you, everyone. You're welcome, Jolene. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you. Suzanne says, yes, love the maps. Pamela says, I like that showing details. Me too. Michelle says to Jolene, Unfound and the listeners are so incredibly good at bringing up things we never thought of. That's why I love doing the think tank, Michelle. We always have new stuff that comes out in the think tank, always. And yes, please hit the like button as you are watching tonight. Suzanne said she loves getting the newsletter. That was a little shorter one this month, but I got it done. I thought it was high quality, even though it was a little shorter than some of the most recent ones. Let's answer another question. I know Jolene's in here, but Dee asked me, and Dee is the one that puts the camel picture in the group. D asked me about the picture of the guy in Mexico, if I believe that is little Joe. All right. I would never say absolutely yes and absolutely no. All right. And I know Jolene is in here. The fact is that the odds of it being him, of course, I think you all know, are very low. Very low. To think that somebody just happened to have a camera at a particular time and caught a picture of him and just randomly in Mexico, we have to accept that. Now, as you know, though, and I'm not just saying that because it's Mexico, I said that about Cameron Remmer's disappearance too. When that picture came out in April of this year of this guy who allegedly looks like him. And that's within like a half mile of from where Cameron disappeared. Of course, Cameron disappeared in 2011. And I doubt that that's Cameron, even though some people think it could be. Me, once again, I default to the same issue. To think that somebody just randomly, just walking around, just happened upon him and happened to have a camera, and the odds are astronomical. I don't mean to be negative, but that's just what the math is. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It does, but it only happens because there are so many people going, that go missing, not because it's common. So, we just have to realize how the human mind works. That even for myself, and when I go through my files on my computer every day, I see every person that Unfound has ever featured on the program, all 180 of them, however many there are. And even myself, if I were to just go randomly start walking around Clearwater or St. Petersburg, St. Petersburg, Florida, or just go to Disney World and start walking around, just minding my own business, even with those 180 people that I see every day in my mind, it very well could be that I I could walk by some of them and not realize it's them. Why? It's just very difficult for people to do that, for humans to do that. Unless you are specifically looking for a specific person, the odds of you just happening to run into a person who is missing, very low. This is why when we do interviews, we don't really tell the audience, be on the lookout for this person. Because that's very difficult to do. Instead, we're looking for hard facts that can point us in directions on where to specifically look for that person and to get more information about what could have happened. So Jolene says, I understand, but hold on to that little bit of hope. I know you have to. And like I said, I'm not giving an absolute yes. I'm not giving an absolute no. But this is just how the human mind works. It just is. This is, for example, and I'm not just picking out little Joe's disappearance. I've talked about this regarding Renee Lamanna's disappearance. She was allegedly sighted three times after the night, two after the night she disappeared, but one was allegedly on the night. But, the problem is that bartender, she's the only woman, she said it was packed that night. She's the only one allegedly saw Renee in there. Nobody else has ever come forward to say that they saw Renee. And then after that, you had a guy on a New York City subway said he saw Renee. A couple years later, and then a car salesman said he saw Renee. The odds of those things happen, and for those people to automatically know that's her or see her, and then somewhere down the road see a flyer or anything, I can't tell you how unusual that would be. Just can't. So, just the way it is. So I'm not saying D, I don't know if she's in here tonight or not, but I'm not saying yes, I'm not saying no. I just think we have to understand the odds of it. And that, and I know Jolene knows this, you have to continue, even if you think that might even be a picture of little Joe there, you have to work on all this stuff over here too. All these other issues as well. And you have to also consider it's another country, and how is he staying there, and how did he get there, and why did he go there, and just no. I want to talk about this. I wrote about this in the I wrote quite a bit about this in the newsletter. Arpad Voss, I talked about him recently. Well, there was a disappearance of a Trenton Ryback from Marysville, Tennessee. And it seems somebody let me know that Arpad Voss, the doctor himself, and his technology called the Inquisitor, was seemingly involved in trying to find Trenton. Trenton was found. He was unfortunately found deceased, but the Inquisitor and Dr. Voss were not the reason that he was found. In fact, from what I've been told by a person who knows, is that the device went right by the area where Trenton was eventually found, and it didn't signal anything. So I continue to stick by what I wrote about in the newsletter, that I think this is, I'm no scientist, but just looking at it from the outside, I think from a rational point of view, it just doesn't make any sense with this stuff. I just think that there is something going on here that doesn't smell right. That's all I can say. And we now know that he got involved in this and was not helpful at all. So it's not reliable. So it's not technology if it's not reliable. If your car only started 1 out of every 100 times, that's not really technology. That's just luck. If your computer only works 1 out of 100 times or whatever it is when you turn it on, that's not technology. That's just luck. And you're having way more bad luck than you're having good luck. That's the way I look at it. Marty says, I don't know the first one, Marty, but I certainly know the other two. As far as Jody Huisentruit, I would love to do one. I know, I certainly could talk to Caroline Lowe about that for sure. And all of you should be listening to the podcast regarding Jody Huisentruit. They have 5 episodes out, and they are really good. I think they're doing a nice job over there at findjody.com. And I'm still talking to Caroline, maybe, doing an episode with them. I would love to. But I certainly could do Jody Huisentruit, because I certainly know Caroline Lowe, who knows everything there is to know about that disappearance, Marty. So I've actually been thinking about it. So being that you brought it up, I think pushes me more in that direction. I already did have Caroline Lowe on the program back in 2017, but it really wasn't the cover. It really wasn't for the specific reason of Jody Huisentruit. We talked a little bit about Jody. We talked a little bit about Jacob Wetterling, which at that time I think was still unsolved. But I certainly could have her on to do a long Unfound episode about Jody's disappearance. We could certainly do that. As far as Brandon Swanson, we've tried to do that, Marty, but the family has not been receptive to it. So I don't know what to tell you about that. As far as Lee Ochi, is that how you pronounce it? I am not familiar with that disappearance. I'm sure one of my assistants could look it up, Marty. But thank you for the suggestions. The Jody Huisentruit one surely is the most probable of those 3. Do I have another question? I do have another question, and then we will get to what we'll be doing this Friday for the episode. Marlene has a long question. I'll see if I can read it all here. Hi, Ed. Since it is the 14th anniversary of the disappearance of Brandy Wells, anything new since you interviewed her mom on your last podcast with her a while back, way back in 2017? To my knowledge, there is no new information, but as being that I just talked about this, probably Brandy Wells is one of those ones that I will go back and do a YouTube video describing, where her phone was found, where her car was found, where she went to that dance club, the country music club at the time. I'll probably do one for her disappearance. To my knowledge, Marlene, no, that there is no new information regarding it at all. Marlene says, I saw a current news clip on her YouTube with her mom. Prayers for her family. I hope they find closure soon. Anyways, any future podcast on Erica Lloyd? I did ask you that question last week, but I didn't get a response. Erica, I think I've done all I can. I'm going to do for now regarding Erica's disappearance. We covered it on Unfound Now, and that's really all I have to say about it for now. There's no new information that I've seen. If it gets to be a year old, then sure. Myself, Emily, will contact her family and see if they'd like to come on the program. I hope it doesn't go to a year. I hope she's found tomorrow, alive. But if that's not what happened, then, a year from now, we'll certainly try to help them as best we can. But I don't know. I'm not keeping tabs on it every second, but it doesn't seem to me like there's anything new. There's somebody else asking me about Brandon Lawson. Once again, I'm going to state for the record. Emily and myself have tried to make that happen, and the family has not been receptive to it for whatever reason. Okay, so that's Marlene's. That's the full content of Marlene's question. Becky says, still looking for specific states for missing if we have a contact or something similar. Well, I went through all those states. We seem to have a problem with the northeast United States for some reason. Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Connecticut, Massachusetts. What am I forgetting? Rhode Island. Of course, we've done New York. Connecticut, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. Hurting there. South Dakota, Hawaii. And there's maybe, there's a few states in there. So we would love to cover all the states before this time next year. Becky, if that's what you mean. Still looking for specific states for missing. Yes, I am. I'm always looking. We're always looking for contact something. Yes, Becky. The answer is yes. The answer is yes. That brings me to, and I know maybe before I do this, I know that, what did Cherie tell me before we started tonight? Hold on a second. Cherie wanted me to, if it came up, Cherie wanted me to tell everybody Chad Dable preliminary hearing was Monday and Tuesday. They found probable cause to bind him over for jury trial just in case it comes up tonight. Once again, that's not something that, once again, a lot to do. Just catch it in passing. And as far as I talked about last week, Layla Cavitt's disappearance from here in Florida. She had this mother who drove from Georgia down here. Her 2-year-old son was found walking in an apartment complex all by himself. This is one that I'm considering to doing an Unfound Now on. I'm still thinking about it. And if I do it, of course, you'll all be the first to know, and I'll post it. So Cherie wanted me to make sure if these things are possibly came up that I mentioned them. Because I've kind of been following Layla Cavitt's disappearance at least a little bit, but all the Daybell stuff, I have to admit, not as much. All right, that brings us to this Friday, and the episode is going to be in memoriam for Esther Westenbarger. As I think most of you, if not all of you now know, her car with her in it was found in a retention pond near where she lived not long ago, like 6 weeks ago. I will think it was June 17th, so a month and a half ago. And I've had a chance to talk to her daughter, Matilda, who was the guest at the time. And so we will, when disappearances are completely solved, there's a suspect in custody, or cause of death has been determined, like in Crystal Morrison's case, Austin Pivo. I haven't done Andre Bowman's yet, but that's coming too. Zoe Campos. Then we do an in memoriam, remembering, going back, playing the original airing of the episode, and then I add in new commentary at the end. And that's what I'll be doing. It's already done for Friday. I think everybody has to be, my general opinion on it is everybody has to, I think, be a little surprised by the ending, by how her disappearance came to an end. And you'll hear me talk about that in the, and once again, the new commentary I add in after my 2017 interview with Matilda, her daughter. The tough part, I think, about this is that we're never going to know why she and her car ended up in that retention pond. Investigators looked at it. The key was in the ignition. It was in the on position. The car was in drive. So they believed that she was driving when she went into the retention pond, that there wasn't any signs of foul play. Because of that, we're never going to know, did she fall asleep at the wheel? Did she maybe have a stroke or a heart attack and lost control? Just going down that road and went in there. Was she drinking and driving? Which she was out drinking that night. Was she just speeding? She maybe was sober, but she was new to the area, came back, a little new to the area, maybe speeding. Maybe she thought she was on a different road or something and just blew through that stop sign, couldn't stop, and went into the water. The problem is we're never going to know. We're never going to know that. But she has been found, and at least her family knows, where she, of course, I guess it's kind of strange for them knowing maybe they passed that retention pond all the time and she was there the whole time, which is creepy. But at least they have the answers now. They could bring her home and they don't have to be suspicious of everybody and be paranoid and everything else. So as you know, I got that one wrong. I was highly suspicious of Esther's brother, who is an interesting character with a criminal record. And I did hear some things that came out of Kokomo, Indiana over the years about how he would arrange these searches in a certain way. But it seems that that was all, but that was nothing. And it seems that Esther went into that water by accident. But we're going to relive that at that episode from back in 2017. And once again, with new commentary from me at the end. Becky says, that has happened 2 times around here. People only found due to drought. Yep. I have to believe, we haven't covered a ton of disappearances where cars have gone missing too. Lola Catherine Fry is one. Jeff Joseph is one. Eric Franks is one. There may be a few more. Those are ones just off the top of my head. But you do have to believe that at least some of these disappearances that are on the Charlie Project or NamUs are ones that where the person in the car went into a body of water by accident. Maybe some of them were on purpose. I don't know how you'd ever prove that. But at least a few of them, if they are to be resolved, I think it will be that the person and his or her car went into a body of water for sure. I don't know what percentage that is of disappearances overall, because people and their cars disappearing together is fairly rare. But of that small group, how many are into water? I don't know. But there's certainly quite a few. That's all I got for tonight. Covered a lot of ground tonight. Got a lot of stuff done. Intro, my birthday. I want to thank all of you again. The poll for Little Joe Bain. Tom Brown, and finally revealed that I did talk to Pine Gregory back in November 2019. I would love to talk to him again. Chris Turner, his remains were found near Sunrise Mountain in Las Vegas. Christopher Hyde, just an update on him a little bit. The new project that we're working on the Unfound Roundtable, started by my assistant Cherie. Unfound on the Ground this Monday for premium Patreon members. Erica Lloyd, the newsletter, Arpad Voss, and his piece of magic, The Inquisitor, and took a bunch of questions and then talked about this Friday's episode, In Memoriam for Esther Westenbarger. That's all I got. I do apologize for the technical issues tonight, but I really don't think that they were my fault. I think it was out of my hands. I'm pretty sure. Hopefully it will play fine in the rewind when people come to it later. I guess we'll just have to see. Thank you all, Becky. Thank you for your generosity there right here at the end of the program. Thank you for the generosity with the money for the super chat. We're going to be getting out of here. You'll hear me Friday. And I hope you all have a great rest of the week. Be safe out there. Good night.